我今有见到香咱爸妈给咱东波拉养成这个我这你爸妈中的其实张国等看着忙不其实到这几旬节老这小三个人爸妈是的哦我马红班这人个人爸妈是的我马红班这人个人爸妈是的我马红班这人个人爸妈是的我马红班这人个人爸妈是的我马红班这人个人爸妈我马红班这人个人爸妈是的我马红班这人个人爸妈是我马红班这人个人爸妈是的哦就拉到江苏拉的边到所讲的那边上城市那当我们的这些吧就当关心别人咋的说中等点广播讲话的要拉上咋咯跟个路主正你正着你的能到了社会正你东跟就是你记得个老王长刚到这边做了马人们都等我的就是若做个老我就到这样了就这样的送这的接着你们你努力接着这种啥马人们是等我的那个今年种着了的能都你到这三进到所有的例子简直都个知道知道这你简直老路们是人家胡拉要烂的欧马拉巴扎那的欧马拉巴扎那的欧马拉巴扎那的欧马拉巴扎那欧马拉巴扎那的欧马拉巴扎那的欧马拉巴扎那的欧马拉巴扎那的欧马拉巴扎那的欧马拉巴扎那的欧马拉巴扎那的欧马拉巴扎那的欧马拉巴扎欧马拉巴扎那的最多的基金接着我这里去老路的们巴拉山挂当当就上路到八一路主不变能啊记得说了了解钱包做的你没上中的毛龙钱包我家把个人当俺战斗什么都东巴的街将拉上咋咯各位法师各位佛友大家晚上好
Good evening everyone
我们现在开始讲今天的课那么听课之前请大家发菩提心
We are going to begin now with tonight's teaching and before we do please everybody make an aspiration of bodhicitta
首先简单的说一下什么叫做菩提心
First of all I'd just like to talk briefly about what bodhicitta is
菩提心就是大乘佛教的精华也就是大乘佛教的灵魂同时也就是大乘佛教的基础
So bodhicitta is the essence of the Mahayana teachings. It's also the soul of the Mahayana teachings as well as the foundation of the Mahayana teachings.
也就是说如果没有菩提心就是没有大乘佛教大乘佛教和小乘佛教的最主要的区别就是发菩提心和不发菩提心
So this is as much as to say without bodhicitta we don't have the Mahayana path. So the main difference between the basic vehicle and the greater vehicle is bodhicitta.
自从我们发了菩提心就是进入大乘佛教之门
From the very moment that we generate bodhicitta, we are considered to have entered into the gate of the Mahayana path.
如果我们没有发菩提心那这样子的话平时我们念这个大乘佛教的经然后诵大乘佛教比如说密宗里面或者是宪宗里面的一些咒但是如果没有发菩提心的话实际上我们还在大乘佛教的门外
So even though we might recite Mahayana sutras or chant Mahayana mantra of the tantric or sutric type without motivation of bodhicitta, then we are still outside the gate of the Mahayana teachings.
为了大家容易理解我们最简单的方式讲菩提心
In order for everyone to understand clearly, I'd like to explain in the most simple terms possible what bodhicitta involves.
菩提心就是2个决心下定决心。
So bodhicitta is essentially 2 vows or 2 commitments.
第一个决心就是下决心我要让天下所有的众生离苦得乐，从这个轮回当中获得解脱，也就是说我要让天下所有的众生成佛这样子下决心，这个是第一个决心。
So the first of these resolves or commitments is that to bring all beings, to eliminate their suffering, to bring them to happiness, to see them liberated from cyclic existence. That is to work for the sake of all beings so that they may attain Buddhahood. This is the first commitment of bodhicitta.
第2个决心就是为了达到这个目标下决心我要成佛，因为我们要让天下所有的众生离苦得乐，这样子的话唯一的成了佛以后才可以完成。所以我就是为了达到这个目标，为了完成这个工作，我要成佛，我一定要成佛为了一切众生我一定要成佛，这样子下决心，这个是第2个决心。
The second resolve or the second vow is made in order to fulfill the first one. In order for us to bring all beings to the state of Buddhahood, it's necessary that we first ourselves attain Buddhahood. The only way that we are going to accomplish our first goal is to first attain Buddhahood for ourselves. So it's for the sake of all beings that we vow to ourselves first attain Buddhahood. And this is the second commitment of bodhicitta.
好，这2个决心加起来就叫做菩提心。
These 2 resolves or commitments combined make up the mind of bodhicitta.
那我们一开始学佛的时候就要求我们有这样子的菩提心，其实就是很难但是呢我们知道了菩提心是什么以后，然后逐渐的训练，就可以有很标准的菩提心。
To begin with, to generate bodhicitta of a really strong or genuine standard is rather difficult. However, once we understand what bodhicitta involves, then gradually we will be able to cultivate a very genuine kind.
好，这样子以后呢下了决心我为了一切众生要成佛。那这样子以后呢我们接下来就是讲今天的课。
So after having made the aspiration to attain Buddhahood for the sake of all beings, after we set our minds in this way, we'll now move on to the topic of tonight's teaching.
今天的我们的课就是这个般若波罗蜜多心经的精华我们今天的这个内容就是讲般若波罗蜜多心经当中的一个比较主要的内容。
So the topic for tonight's teaching is the essence of the Prajnaparamita Sutra. So in tonight's teaching, we're going to be looking at core content from the Prajnaparamita Sutra.
那我们首先要了解一下我们为什么要讲这个般若波罗蜜多，然后呢再了解般若波罗蜜多是什么。
So first we need to gain an understanding of why it is that we're talking about the Prajnaparamita and what in fact the Prajnaparamita is, what it's about.
我们学般若波罗蜜多的一个主要原因理由主要就有2个第一个呢就是为了断除我们自己的内心当中的各种各样的烦恼，然后就是断除生老病死的痛苦这个就是我们学般若波罗蜜多的第一个目的。
The reason that we study the Prajnaparamita, which is also translated in English as transcendental wisdom, is firstly in order to eliminate our various afflictions, and secondly to eliminate the sufferings of cyclic existence, namely birth, degeneration, illness and death.
然后第二个目的就是提升我们自己的智慧我们的智慧现在我们每一个人都有一点智慧，但是呢这个智慧是非常非常有局限性就是基本上就是从佛教的角度来讲，基本上停留在一个种子这样子的阶段，还没有发芽，还没有开花结果但是我们接受了这个大乘佛教的训练的方式以后呢，可以能让我们的内心当中的这个智慧的种子发芽，然后开花结果。
The next reason that we study the transcendental wisdom is precisely in order to elevate or increase our wisdom. So as we presently stand, we have some capacity to do so already. However, it's very limited in nature. From a Buddhist perspective, our current capacity to increase our wisdom has not passed beyond the seed stage. It has not yet flowered. It has not yet borne fruit. However, by accepting Mahayana methods of training our mind, it is possible for us to grow our seeds of wisdom so that they do blossom and bear fruit.
我们很多人还不知道我们自己活着的目的和目标，或者是人生的这个真正的意义是什么有些人还在寻找有些人都还没有寻找有些人虽然是寻找但是呢还没有达到，还没有找到比较满意的这个答案。那么我们今天可以在这个大乘佛教的这个教义当中看看有没有适合作为我们的这个生存的意义、人生的意义这样子的事情。
Many people who have not yet reached an understanding of their life purpose, or indeed what the meaning in life is. Many are still searching, and some haven't yet started to search. For those who are still searching, many have not yet reached a satisfactory answer. So tonight we can look to see whether in the Mahayana teachings there is a purpose there that is fit to make our reason or goal for existence, for living.
大乘佛教给我们的一个这个人生的目标那这个目标我们可以分2种一个就是我们刚才前面讲的消除自己的生老病死的痛苦断除我们自己的所有的这个烦恼，然后我们把我们自己的这个烦恼和生老病死的这个痛苦断除消除了以后呢，然后我们把这个方法就告诉更多的人，身边的人，更多的人，然后 让他们也就通过这个方法消除每一个人自己的内在的烦恼，然后逐步的断除每一个人的生老病死的这个痛苦啊。我们参加到这样子的工作当中，就投入到这个行业当中啊，这个大乘佛教就认为这个可以作为一个人生的目标，而且这是一个比较伟大的人生的目标。
The life purpose or life goal that is given to us by the Mahayana teachings is twofold. Firstly, to eliminate the suffering of cyclic existence for ourselves, the suffering of birth, degeneration, illness, and death. And secondly, to eliminate our afflictions, our negative thoughts and negative mental states. And then after having eliminated both of these forms of suffering for ourselves, we then go on to share this knowledge of how to do so with others so that we can enable them to eliminate the sufferings of cyclic existence and eliminate their afflictions. So taking part in this kind of activity, taking part in this kind of purposeful work is seen by the Mahayana tradition as a very great, a very vast life purpose.
另外一个目的就是我们把自己的这个智慧和慈悲心提高通过这个大乘佛教的训练的方法提高我们自己的智慧，然后提高我们自己的这个慈悲心提高最后最大的这个最高的境界，提高到巅峰的时候呢，也就是佛的境界。这个就到时候我们达到了这个目标以后，然后有把这个方法告诉更多的人，让每一个人也就通过这样子的方法，把自己的慈悲心和自己的智慧提升到最高的级别这个可以作为第二个这个人生的目标。
And the second of these life purposes is relying on methods from the Mahayana teachings to increase our wisdom and increase our compassion, elevate them to the highest level possible, which is the level of Buddhahood. And once we have elevated our compassion and wisdom in such a way, we then go on to share this knowledge with others so that they too are able to elevate and increase their own wisdom and compassion to the highest level possible.
那么我们的烦恼真的可以从我们的内心当中让它消失或者是我们的烦恼生老病死的痛苦，或者是我们的贪嗔痴等等这些烦恼，真的从我们的内心当中把它分离出去吗？我们很多人可能有这样子的疑问大乘佛教说这个完全是可以的为什么可以呢？因为这比如说这个生气、抱怨、仇恨、贪婪嫉妒这样子的所有的这些烦恼都不是我们的心的本质不是我们内心的本质因为他们都是有一定的这个条件具备的情况下，就是突然偶然产生的一个这样子的烦恼，它并不是我们的内心的本质，它不是我们内心的本质，因为它不是我们的内心的本质，所以这个是可以分离的。
Many people wonder whether it is actually possible for us to eliminate afflictions from our minds, whether it's possible to get rid of our negative thoughts and emotions, whether it's possible to be free from the sufferings of cyclic existence and negative mental states such as attachment, anger, ignorance, whether it is possible or not is something that many people have doubts about. However, from the point of view of the Mahayana teachings, it is completely possible. Negative emotions and mental states such as anger, spite, avarice, greed, jealousy, etc. are not our mind's nature. In fact, all they are thoughts and emotional states that randomly arise under particular causes and conditions. And because they are not the mind's natural state, therefore it is possible for the mind to be freed of them.
我们要端处的，或者是我们从我们的内心当中要分离出去的，或者是用禅宗的话来讲，需要放下的这个并不是身外的东西比如说我们身外的所有的东西都放下了，都放弃了远离他们了，但是呢，最后我们内心当中的这些烦恼没有断除的话，那是身外的这些东西虽然是我们都放弃了但是呢没有任何的作用，主要要放下的就是我们内在的这些烦恼。
What it is that we need to eliminate, or what it is that we need to cast away, or to use Chan language to let go of, is not things that are external to ourselves, not anything that is outside of ourselves. If we were to give up all of our external attachments, but had not given up our internal afflictions, then it would be no use whatsoever. So what it is that we need to eliminate or to let go of is precisely our inner negative thoughts and emotional states.
所以佛教尤其是大乘佛教没有要求我们不是要求我们放下或者是放弃家庭、工作、生活以及这个生活当中的幸福、快乐等等。
So for this reason, Buddhism and particularly the Mahayana teachings don't ask of us to give up our family or our work or life in general, the joys and happinesses that come with everyday life. We are not asked to give these up.
因为佛教认为今天我们有机会做人在人间可以过着这个人间的生活，能够享受人的这个福报这个就是我们过去的行善积德的结果，是我们自己过去积德的结果所以我们每一个人有权利有资格来享受这个生活当中的幸福或者是快乐但是呢，佛教就是提醒我们我们应该进一步的去创造就更加的幸福的生活，更加有意义的人生。
The reason that Buddhism doesn't ask us to give up these things is because it is believed that the very fact that we have an opportunity to have this human rebirth in this life and to enjoy the good fortune of a human life is because of past positive or past accumulated merit and past positive action that we have engaged in. So for this reason, we are considered entitled to enjoy life's happinesses and pleasures. However, what the teachings do encourage us to do is to try to cultivate an even more meaningful and happy kind of existence.
然后我们怎么样提升这个智慧的这个层次级别？首先我们要知道我们每一个人，我们今天在座的每一个人 或者是根本就是没有信仰的一个甚至是根本没有信仰的一个无神论者甚至是某一个比如说一个动物都是一样，只要有这个有情感、有意识这样子的人也好，动物也好，他们的这个内心的深处是有佛心，他们的内心的深处最深的地方是一个非常简单、非常纯洁的一个这样子的状态，并不是我们现在的我们的内心的表面的现象一样那么的混乱，然后就是那么浮躁那么复杂它不是这样子。
So how is it that we go about increasing our level of wisdom? Well, everybody here tonight, and indeed anyone without religious faith whatsoever, an atheist person, even an animal, so long as the being in question is sentient, whether they be human or animal, they all possess Buddha nature. At the deepest layer of their mind is a state that is extremely simple and pure, and nothing at all like the very complicated, turbulent outside layers of our current state of mind.
我们每一个人来说，我们不是很了解我们自己为什么这么说呢？人就是物质和精神这两个东西结合的一个人就是结合是精神和物质的一个组合体那么我们第一个，我们的这个身体结构，我们的身体当中的这些物质，我们也不是很了解。然后呢，我们的精神我们更加的不了解，非常的不了解。所以这个当中，如果我们进一步去了解的话，这里面有很多我们可以通过这个大乘佛教的训练的方式，可以把它提升到很高的这个级别提升到很高的层次，一定会发现这样子的事情。
None of us have a very good understanding of ourselves. All of us are composites of matter and mind. However, in terms of the physical matter of our bodies, our physical structures, this is not something that we understand particularly well. And as to the nature of our minds, this is something that we understand even less. Even so, through relying on Mahayana methods of training our minds, it is possible for us to elevate our minds to a very high level indeed.
我们的这个肉体微观世界当中的细胞，然后就是这个神经元之类的这些细微的东西，我们都不了解，我们每一个人都不了解我们自己的身体。
So as to our physical body, various structures that exist at the micro level, such as cells and neurons, etc., these are not something that anyone really understands. So the first thing that we don't really understand properly is our own bodies.
然后我们的比如说我们身体当中的毛细血管如果把这个所有的毛细血管一个接着一个这样子接起来的话连接起来的话，就是可以一个人的身体当中的毛细血管可以达到10万到15万公里可以在这个地球的赤道上绕地球3到4遍3到4周但是我们谁相信我们身体当中有这么多这么长的东西呢？我们从来都没有想到过。
As for the veins and arteries in our bodies, if they were all connected together, then it would be possible for them to reach a length of 150,000 kilometers. That is, it would be possible for our veins and arteries connected together to wrap around the world 3 or 4 times. However, that our veins and arteries put together could be so long is not could reach such a length is not something that any of us has really given thought to.
然后我们的精神比如说这个脑神经科学家发现，比如说我们动我们的手指头去弹钢琴的时候，然后就是我们的大脑里面的某一个区域是控制我们的手指头的那么这个练钢琴的过程当中，这个大脑的部分就会产生变化，会变大然后呢，这个我们的手指根本就不动根本不动，这是心里想我在弹钢琴但是我的手指从来都没有动过从来没有动过，只是心里观想用我们佛教的话来讲，就是一种观想那么通过这个观想或者是冥想，也同样的可以这个改变这个大脑的这个部位科学家已经发现了。那么这个精神的力量是怎么产生的那么等等很多很多的我们精神上的还有就是我们的肉体上的，然后他们两个的关系等等，很多事情我们一无所知。
As for our minds, neuroscientists have discovered that when we play the piano and our fingers move, then this stimulates a certain area of the brain, and that by playing or practicing the piano, this area of the brain is enlarged. They have also discovered that if we don't move our fingers at all, but we simply imagine ourselves, or to use a Buddhist term, visualize ourselves to be playing the piano, then a similar result will take place. The same area of the brain will be stimulated, and it is possible for it to be enlarged simply by imagining ourselves to be playing the piano. So as to the nature of the power of the mind and our physical bodies and the connection between the two, these are questions that we really have no understanding of.
所以我们的身体、生命还有精神这都根本不是我们想象的那么简单的所以这些里面就是有很多我们可以去学习的，然后学习了以后呢，通过这个大乘佛教的训练的方法，我们可以训练了以后呢，我们可以把我们的这个智慧和我们的慈悲心可以培养提升，可以提升到最高的级别、最高的境界、最巅峰那么这个就是叫做成佛。佛是什么呢？佛不是神，不是神仙人类的智慧和人类的这个慈悲心提升到最高的时候，提升到最高境界的时候这个境界就叫佛，就叫做佛。谁有这样子的境界，谁就是佛。
So the physical body, life, the mind, none of these things are as simple as what we have tended to regard them to be. So there is much for us to learn, there is much for us to study. And through relying on Mahayana methods, it is possible for us to train our minds and to increase and grow our wisdom and compassion to the highest, most summit level possible. That is to the level of Buddhahood. So what is Buddhahood? What is Buddha? Buddha does not refer to a saint. When we increase our compassion and increase our wisdom to the highest possible level, when we attain this state, this is referred to as Buddhahood. And whoever attains this state is a Buddha.
佛教里面的很多的佛教的这些修心佛教的观点，很多听起来很专业，但是每一个佛教里面讲的这些呢，可以跟我们的生活是息息相关，因为我们有了这样子的这个境界以后呢，这个境界可以改变我们对这个生活的态度，然后呢，我们对生活的态度改变了以后呢，然后我们可以在这个生活当中产生的很多的烦恼，很多的痛苦，都很轻松的可以解决。
Many Buddhist methods of practice and many Buddhist doctrines sound very specialized. They sound very technical. However, it's very possible for them to be brought into a very close connection with our everyday lives. And through relying on them, through cultivating them, to change our life attitudes so that our afflictions and sufferings can be resolved very easily.
我们为了解决这个生活当中的很多的困难，然后就创造了非常辉煌的物质生活但是呢，我们有没有还要解决的其他的痛苦呢？除了物质能够解决的痛苦以外，还有没有其他的痛苦呢？有当我们还没有拥有这么多的物质的时候呢，我们认为没有，我们认为只要有物质，就所有问题都可以解决。但是呢，然后我们有机会接触到这个庞大的物质财富这样子的时候呢，然后我们又发现还没有解决所有问题，还有很多很多更多的问题还没有解决。那么这些问题如果不解决的话，那就是同样的痛苦。过去我们因为缺乏物质而痛苦然后现在呢，我们缺乏一些精神上的这个东西而痛苦。这两个都是同样的缺乏一些需要的东西，然后呢，同样的痛苦，所以我们就是不是除了物质以外都不需要，还有一些解决痛苦的方法，这个就是大乘佛教给我们提供的一些方法。
In order to resolve many of life's problems, we created a very splendid material civilization. However, besides suffering that is able to be addressed through material means, are there other kinds of suffering that cannot be addressed through these means? The answer to this is yes. Before we made such a vast material civilization, we thought that it was possible for everything to be resolved through material means. However, once we encountered a culture of great material riches, we discovered that in actual fact this wasn't the case. So in times gone past, when we lacked certain material things, we experienced suffering. And now where we currently are, lacking certain things of a spiritual nature, we experience suffering. So both of these are forms of suffering. And aside from material means to address our suffering, we're also in need of other methods and means as well. And these are ones that can be supplied to us through the methods of the Mahayana tradition.
然后我们有吃有穿，还有很多生活的必需品，该有的很多都已经有了但是呢，我们还存在很多很多的痛苦，还有很多的不满有很多这样子的这个事情。那么这个时候呢，我们很多人觉得这个生活就是这样子，这些是没有办法避免的这些痛苦是没有办法解决的但是呢，大乘佛教就告诉我们，这些痛苦如果你想解决的话，是可以解决的如果你想解决，那有一种方法，你稍微花一点时间稍微下一点功夫，这些问题同样也是可以解决，可以过一个更好的生活如果愿意的话，那我们就可以过一个这样子的生活。这就是大乘佛教给我们提供的一个提升我们自己的智慧和慈悲，然后提升我们的这个生活的品质人生的意义提高我们的人生的意义的一个方法。
So we have food to eat, we have clothes, and we have all manner of life, other life necessities. All these things are still sufficient. Yet, nevertheless, we continue to experience suffering and a sense of dissatisfaction in general. Many people are resigned to this kind of suffering. They feel that it's inevitable and it's not able to be escaped from. Nevertheless, what the Mahayana teachings show us is that if we want to resolve this suffering, it is possible. There is a method that with a bit of time invested on our part and a bit of effort invested too is possible to resolve these sufferings. It's able through this method for us to lead a better life. So long as we are willing, it is possible to bring this about. So what the Mahayana teachings provide us with is a method for increasing our wisdom and compassion and thereby improving our life quality, elevating our meaning in life.
然后我们全世界所有人就是来的时候，来这个世界的时候，对这个世界是充满了希望的。比如说10几岁、20岁这样子的时候呢，我们每个人都在想，只要我可以努力，我能够努力的话，这个世界一定会让我很满意、很满足。然后呢，这些人离开这个世界的时候呢，那就是真正这个世界让他很满意，在这样子的满意的情况下离开的人非常非常的少。
All around the whole world, humans, when they first arrive in the world, are filled with a sense of hope and expectation that life, so long as they work hard and diligent, that this life will be able to bring them satisfaction. Many people who are 18 or 20 years old often think like this. However, the number of people who leave the world with a sense of having achieved satisfaction are very few indeed.
就是因为年轻的时候大家人生的经验不丰富，然后就是对这个生活对这个世界不是很了解那这个时候就是充满了希望，然后逐渐的就是了解了人生了解了生活，然后这个了解了这个世界上的一切以后呢然后就是感觉到这个世界实际上就是不是那么年轻的时候所想象的那么完美没有那么的美好，所以就是最后走的时候呢心满意足的情况下可以离开的人非常非常的少，原因就是这样子。
And the reason that people entertain such hopes is because they are young, they lack life experience, and because they don't understand life, they don't understand how the world works, they're filled with a sense of great hope. However, gradually, as they come to understand life, they begin to feel that it is not as ideal and wonderful as they thought it was when they were young. So because of this, the number of people who depart their lives with satisfied minds are very few.
那么所有的这些不满然后就是这些抱怨、这些仇恨还有所有的这些烦恼、贪婪等等。那么这些到底是我们的这个世界的问题，还是我们对世界的态度的问题这个我们要看清楚。这个世界本来就是这样，还是我们对这个世界的认知有问题这些烦恼到底来自于什么？我们为什么对这个世界不满？为什么对这个生活不满？为什么对这个我们自己的人生不满？那这些世界、人生、我们的生命，它本身就它的本质就是有这么欠缺、有缺陷的东西，还是我们对他们的态度有问题那么这个就是我们要进一步学习的。
So this lack of satisfaction, a sense of complaint, resentment, afflictions in general, greed, etc., what we really need to examine is whether these are due to a problem with the external world or due to our attitude towards the world. This is something that we need to understand very clearly, whether it's the world that has a problem or whether it's our understanding of the world or our approach to the world that has a problem. So where is it that our afflictions come from? From where do they arise? In terms of our lives, the world around us, etc. Why is it that we feel unsatisfied towards them? Is it a lack that primarily exists in the external world, or is it more to do with our own attitudes? This is something that we need to look into further.
我们的生活当中的有些痛苦是我们以世俗的方法去解决的话，暂时可以得到解决。但是有些痛苦呢，通过这种世俗的方法是根本没有办法解决，但是这些痛苦是一定要解决的那么一定要解决这个问题，但我们目前没有一个好的解决的方法，那这样子的时候呢，我们必须要寻找另外一个方法，或者是说比如说佛教或者是其他教里面有一些现成的这个方法的话，那我们也应该去试一试。
In terms of suffering that we encounter in life, some of it is able to be resolved or addressed through worldly or ordinary means. However, there is some suffering that can't be addressed, can't be resolved through ordinary means, but still we need to address it, we need to solve it. So if we don't have a good method for doing so, then we really need to go about finding one. And in terms of finding a method to do so, we should give a try methods that already exist in Buddhism and in other traditions.
所以我们今天的这个课和明天的课这2天的课里面，就给大家介绍一下大乘佛教给我们提供的一个解决这些烦恼的一个方法。
So over these 2 days of teaching, tonight's teaching and tomorrow night's teaching, what I would like to introduce to everyone is a method that is provided to us by the Mahayana teachings for resolving suffering.
今天的这个课里面，我们讲这个理论，我们怎么样去解决这些问题解决这些烦恼的理论。然后明天的这个课里面呢，就是讲一些实际的实践的方法。
So tonight what I'm going to be talking about is the theory of how we go about resolving affliction. And in tomorrow night's teaching, I am going to be introducing actual practice methods that we can rely on to resolve our affliction.
首先，大家想一想，我们的这个生活当中的所有的痛苦，它是来自于什么来自于我们所看到的、所听到的、所接触到的也就是说，我们的眼、耳、鼻、舌、身这个5个器官、5个感官能够接触到的这个世界当中产生的。我们的烦恼基本上就是我们从来没有看到过的，从来没有听到过的，从来没有接触过的，一般不会这样子的东西当中产生。平时我们生活当中的这些所有的烦恼，是我们看得见、听得着这样子的东西当中产生的。
So first I'd like you to consider where it is that our suffering, all of our suffering, comes from. In terms of what we see, what we hear, what we touch, indeed our 5 sense faculties, these are the cause of or the origin of our suffering. In general, those things that we've never seen, that we've never heard, and that we've never touched don't form our suffering.
然后我们现在进一步的去了解一下，我们看到的是什么，听到的是什么，我们的这个5种感官所接触到的这个世界，它到底是什么样子。
So we need to go a bit further to look a bit further at what it is, the nature of what it is that our 5 sense faculties perceive.
好，我们今天这个方法是讲般若波罗蜜多心经的方法。
So the approach that I'm going to take tonight is drawn from the Heart Sutra.
般若波罗蜜多心经是非常非常著名的几乎信佛的不信佛的很多人知道的一部佛经。
So the Prajnaparamita Heart Sutra is a very, very famous and well-known sutra. Buddhists and non-Buddhists alike have know this sutra.
但是很遗憾的是什么呢？我们很多的包括佛教徒也就把这个般若波罗蜜多呢心经呢就是作为一个我们平时的一个念诵的佛经我们认为去念这个佛经就有功德但是我们不知道这里面在讲什么。
However, what is extremely regretful is that many people, Buddhists included, only treat the Heart Sutra as something to be recited, believing that reciting the Heart Sutra has great merit. The fact is, however, that besides or aside from reciting the sutra, most people don't understand its meaning.
然后我们更加的不知道这个般若波罗蜜多心经的内容跟我们自己的人生有什么关系，跟我们的生活有什么关系般若波罗蜜多的内容可不可以用到我们的生活当中？如果可以用的话，那它会给我们的生活带来什么样的变化这些我们都不知道。
And we understand even less whether it is possible to connect the content of the Heart Sutra with our own lives, whether it's possible to apply its meaning to our lives, and if we do so, what transformations will take place. This is not something that many people really understand.
那么般若波罗蜜多心经为什么叫心经呢？就是因为这个佛经里面般若波罗蜜多这个就是一个非常非常庞大的佛经。有一个这个佛经大乘佛教里面呢，有一部佛经叫做大般若经大般若经，那这个就是一个非常庞大的佛经。
So, in terms of the Prajnaparamita Heart Sutra, why is it called the Heart Sutra? In Buddhism, the Prajnaparamita Sutra or the Prajnaparamita literature is very vast indeed, and the largest sutra is referred to as the Prajnaparamita Sutra.
那么这个大般若经当中呢，就是包含了很多的般若最大的叫做般若十万颂十万颂就是一个偈子一个偈子当中呢有4横4横，然后呢每一行里面呢有5个字或者是7个字这样子，然后就是一共都是每一个偈子就大概就是有30多个字然后就是个10万个颂词10万个颂词，每10万个颂词每一个颂词里面呢就是有30多个字那这样子就是一个非常非常庞大的佛经，这叫做般若十万颂。
So within this this very vast sutra, there are sutras of it is condensed or rescinded into sutras of different lengths. So there is the Prajnaparamita Sutra of 100,000 verses. So within every single verse there are 4 lines. Each line has 5 to 7 characters. So each verse on average has about 30 words or characters. So and there are 100,000 verses like this. So it's a very vast sutra indeed.
然后般若十万颂以后就是有般若25000颂。
Then going down from the Prajnaparamita Sutra in 100,000 verses, we have the Prajnaparamita Sutra in 25,000 verses.
然后就是有般若波罗蜜多8000颂。
And then we have the Prajnaparamita Sutra in 8,000 verses.
这些都是大般若经。
And these are all large Prajnaparamita Sutras.
然后这些所有的大般若经的内容浓缩了以后呢，就是变成了金刚经。金刚经也就是很多人都是非常熟悉的金刚经。金刚经就有5000个字。
And when the meaning of these larger sutras are condensed down to a sutra of a much smaller size, we have the Diamond Sutra. So the Diamond Sutra is one that many people are very familiar with. It has 5,000 words or 5,000 characters.
然后这个金刚经的5000个字再浓缩了以后呢，就是变成了般若波罗蜜多心经200多个字。
And then condensed even further into a sutra of 200 words, we have the Heart Sutra.
然后200多个字当中呢，也有一个精华，精华就是观自在菩萨心生般若波罗蜜多时，照见五蕴皆空，度一切苦厄。舍利者，色不异空，空不异色，色即是空， 空即是色，受想行识，依复入世。这几个字就是200多个字当中的有识精华。
And then within this 200-word sutra, we have an even more condensed, or an even it's possible to locate the essence of this even further. And the essence of the Heart Sutra is the verse that culminates in the lines, "Form is emptiness, and emptiness is form."
那么这几个字当中呢，最关键的也就只有几个只有几个就是色不异空，空不异色这8个字，然后色即是空，空即是色，另外的8个字，一共就是有16个字。这个16个字是最关键的、浓缩的、精华的。
Of this verse that culminates in the lines that form is emptiness and emptiness is form, these 2 lines or 4 lines that make up 16 words are the most important of the entire sutra.
好，那么这个16个字当我们有烦恼的时候然后这些烦恼我们似乎是没有办法解决的时候就是任何一个我们世俗的东西都用不上的时候这个时候这16个字是用得上的，然后我们的生活当中任何一个问题这个产生的这些烦恼都可以用这16个字来解决。
These are 16 words, regardless of what kind of negative thoughts or emotional state that we may be undergoing. Even if various ordinary means are not able to resolve our suffering, these 16 words we will certainly be able to put into use. It's possible through using these 16 words for us to resolve any kind of suffering.
在西方社会当中比如说佛教的禅修就是寂止就是一般的禅修寂止的修法，还有就是这个慈悲心的修法已经是非常的流行尤其是像美国就是各行各业包括年7、8岁的小学生小学里面都现在开始推广，非常的流行。那么为什么呢？不是因为信仰就是因为看到了它的本身的价值禅修的价值，慈悲心的价值，禅修对现实生活的作用，慈悲对现实生活的作用，发现了这个价值以后呢，然后有信仰的，没有信仰的，有其他信仰的大家都在用。
In Western society, meditation methods, primarily shamatha meditation or calm abiding meditation, and compassion meditation are extremely popular, particularly in America. People of all kinds of professions and backgrounds, primary school students included, are engaging in these meditational practices. They're extremely popular indeed. And why is this the case? Well, it's not because all these people have Buddhist faith. It's because they directly perceive the value that these meditation methods can bring them, the value of compassion meditation, the benefits of meditation in their everyday lives. So people of with religious faith and people with no religious background whatsoever are all applying these meditation methods.
大家想想，就是科技这么发达然后就是物质生活就是很丰富这样子的时候呢，为什么还需要这个像禅修 慈悲心这样子的东西为什么还要这些东西呢？就是这些都是至少就是3000年以前的文化，3000年以前的东西为什么我们21世纪的时候呢？为什么还需要用这些？为什么我们的生活当中还非常的明显他们的价值为什么还那么明显这个就是我们值得思考。所以就是佛教里面呢有一些这个我们生活当中可以用得上的。然后如果我们的要求如果再高一点的话，那就是可以提升我们的智慧，然后我们的烦恼从本质上可以解决的，这样子的方法确实是有的。
So, in an age where science and technology are as advanced as they are, why is it that we are still looking to meditation, calm abiding meditation and compassion, etc. as useful and valuable? These traditions are over 3,000 years old, yet why is it that we are still in need of them? Why is it that they still have value for us? Why is it that the value or the benefit in our lives still remains obvious? These are questions that are very much worthy of our consideration. In addition to other benefits, the use that they may bring to our lives through relying on these Buddhist methods of practice, it's also possible for us to increase our wisdom and to completely eliminate our suffering at the root. This is entirely possible through relying on these methods.
在西方社会非常流行的禅修虽然是佛教里面的一个修法，但是呢这个是一个很基础的修法。然后慈悲心在大乘佛教里面是非常有地位的非常的重视，但是呢也是不是很高深的法，也不是一个很高深的方法那么这个心经讲的色即是空，空即是色，这种方法呢就是不是一个基础的方法，是一个比较高端的方法。
So the meditation method that are currently very popular in the West, though deriving from the Buddhist tradition, is quite a basic meditation technique. And compassion, of course, has great status, is regarded as extremely important in the Buddhist teachings. However, it's not an advanced method of practice. On the other hand, emptiness is form and form is emptiness. This is a very advanced teaching.
我们曾经希望这个物质可以解决我们的所有问题，但是我们现在发现物质解决不了所有问题，物质当然可以解决一部分的问题。然后呢，我们希望这个禅修和慈悲心来解决我们剩下的问题禅修和慈悲心当然可以解决我们的一部分的问题，但是呢它也解决不了所有的问题。所以这个时候呢如果我们去读一读这个心经学一学，然后把它的一些方法能够用到生活当中这样子的话，剩下的很多的这个问题烦恼都可以解决。
In times gone past, we regarded that we felt it was possible for material means to address all our problems, and now we have discovered that this is not possible. That, of course, while it's possible for material means to address many things, it's not possible to address everything. So in terms of our remaining problems, we have the meditation techniques of karma binding meditation and compassion meditation, and it is possible for them to further address our problems. However, these two meditation methods are not possible to solve all of our problems either. So in this event, through reading the Heart Sutra and applying its approaches to our lives, it is possible for us to resolve all of our suffering.
首先我们了解一下我们的这个日常生活当中经常产生的这些烦恼，它们来自于什么我们自己去根据我们自己的经验去看看，我们不要说释迦牟尼佛说怎么样佛经里面说怎么或者是这个希腊哲学里面怎么然后东方哲学又怎么讲都不要这么讲，我们就是根据自己的经验，我们的生活当中的这些很多经常出现的这些烦恼主要跟什么东西有关系，大家自己想一想。
So we need to reflect on the suffering that usually arises in our everyday lives and think about where it is that it comes from. This is something that we should think about based on our own experience. We shouldn't look to what the Shakyamuni Buddha said, or what the sutras say, or what Eastern philosophy says, or what Western philosophy says. Just based on our own experience and looking at our own lives, where is it that our most common forms of suffering come from?
然后这个时候我们会发现我们的烦恼多数跟我们自己的这个执着有非常大的关系，比如说这个就是一个非常普通的手表，然后呢，如果这个手表我特别的在乎它这样子的话呢，它给我导致很多的烦恼。虽然它很一般，但是呢，我的心我的内心没有觉得它是很一般，我觉得它很好，所以我特别在乎。比如说一个小孩他特别的在乎他的某一个玩具失去的时候他特别的伤心，哭个不停然后另外一个大人看的话，那这个没有什么，这个只不过就是一个玩具而已，不是什么值钱的东西但是呢，这个不是他值钱不值钱的问题，就是小孩就是因为他很执着这东西，所以呢失去了这个东西的时候呢，让他特别的难受，让他特别的痛苦。所以我们就是生活当中很多的烦恼是跟我们自己的这个执着有非常非常大的关系。
And if we examine our lives and the suffering that routinely crops up in them, then we can see that our suffering usually comes from or stems from our attachment, our sense of clinging. So an example might be an ordinary watch. Even though the watch is just ordinary, if we care about it very much, then it creates a great deal of suffering for us. We can liken it to a child who really loves a particular toy that they have, and if they lose it, then they feel very upset and they cry continuously. Of course, to an adult, the toy is nothing. It's just a toy. It's got no value whatsoever. However, it's not a question of whether the toy is valuable or not. The issue is that the child is very attached to it, and therefore, if he or she loses it, feels very experiences a great deal of suffering. So we can therefore see that in our lives, suffering comes from our attachment.
就是一个手表啊，很普通的手表。然后呢，我很执着的时候，我很在乎的时候啊，我很喜欢它的时候，如果失去了啊，然后就会给我带来很大的这个痛苦。然后比如说在过几年或者是几个月以后因为我们的人的心内心经常都在时时刻刻都在变它未来的变化是什么，我们任何人都不知道今天我很喜欢这个表，但是明天我会喜欢什么，我不知道，大家都不知道那明天我喜欢的是不是这个表，谁也不知道这个不是我们可以控制的平时在生活当中，因为我们的心它就是有一个它自己的这个发展的一个自然的规律，它有一个规律然后它就是根据它的规律去变化那么这个规律有些时候是我们可以接受的，有些时候这个规律是我们不接受的，但是这个结果，它这个变化的结果我们不想要的我们不喜欢的，但是我们不知道怎么样去改变它有些时候我们的内心当中就是有某些事情因为某些事情发生了不愉快，甚至是痛苦然后我们不想不愉快，不想有这样子的痛苦特别喜欢让它很快的走让它很快过去但是它就是不走那么这个时候呢，我们不知道要怎么样去解决不知道怎么样去解决。如果我们不在乎的话呢，那当然不需要在乎了。比如说我现在特别在乎的一个手表失去了我会痛苦，但是呢几个月以后几年以后失去了就对我一点影响都没有，有可能一点影响都没有，无所谓那这是为什么呢？同样的一个手表同样的一个东西失去了但是对我的感受对我的影响不一样那么这个影响到底是在这个物质上面还是在我的这个心态上面我们要去寻找。这个时候我们会发现物质没有发生太大的变化主要是我的心态发生了变化，所以呢它失去的时候，当它不存在的时候，我没有拥有它的时候，然后影响和不影响就是要看我在乎的时候和不在乎的时候如果我在乎的时候没有了，我特别难过，我不在乎的时候它失去了根本就无所谓的。所以这个就是我们充分的说明，这些所有的痛苦都是来自于我自己的心态，我们自己的这个执着。
So even though it's just an ordinary watch, if we feel very attached to it, if we cling to it and then lose it, we experience great suffering. However, if a few months were to pass, because our minds typically change from one moment to moment, we never know what our minds are going to be thinking in the next moment. So today we might like the watch, however tomorrow whether we will continue to like it so much is not something that we really can know. Our minds are the changes that they display are not something we're able to control. Our minds have their own natural law, and the changes that take place in our minds do so according to this natural law. And sometimes we can accept the changes that take place, and sometimes we can't. sometimes the result of a particular change that takes place in our mind is one that we don't like. However, we're not in a position to change it. So, for example, when something happens and we feel unhappy, we experience suffering, we don't want to feel unhappy. We don't want to be suffering. We want this feeling to pass quickly, to disappear quickly. However, it doesn't pass, and we don't know how to address the feeling that we are undergoing. However, if we don't care about something, then there is no problem to start with. So this watch at the moment, if I was to lose it, I would feel very sad. However, if in another few months I no longer cared about the watch, then I wouldn't feel so sad if I were to lose it. In both cases, it's the same thing. It's the same watch that's being lost, except the effect that is this has on us is very different. So what we need to look at is whether this difference in effect that the loss of the watch has on us is due to a change or a difference in the material nature of the watch, or whether it's due to a difference in our attitudes. And by thinking in this way, it's possible for us to see that there's been no change at all that has taken place in the watch, the material nature of the watch. What has changed, in fact, is our minds, our attitudes. So, in fact, whether or not we experience suffering in a given situation is determined by whether or not we care or not about something, whether or not we are whether we are attached. So all of this proves very completely that all of our suffering derives from mental attachment.
好，这样子以后呢，我们知道这些痛苦都是跟我们自己的执着有关系啊。那我们的执着跟什么有关系呢？跟什么东西有关系？我们为什么这么执着呢？跟我们的执着在乎是来自于我们认为他们都是真实的，都是真实的。我们把他们都当作真实，比如说我们的金钱、社会的地位，然后我们的这个名声等等，所有的这一切对我们特别的这个在乎。那么这个在乎有些时候让我们感到幸福、快乐这个满足，也有这样子的时候。但是这些所有的满足、幸福、快乐走得非常的快，然后这个过去了以后呢，然后后面就有一大堆的烦恼。那么这些烦恼我们现在已经发现，这个就是跟我们的执着有关系。然后我们现在也发现执着跟我们把它当作真实的东西有关系。那么最后呢，我们发现最后的这个因素是我们把这个世界当作非常非常的真实跟这个有关系源头就在这里。源头是我们把我们的5个感官所感受到的这个世界，把它当作是一个非常真实的世界。我们从来没有怀疑过它到底存不存在，它到底真不真实，我们从来没有这样子怀疑过我们理所当然的就接受就把它定为是真实的这样子以后呢，我们把它当作是真实的，那就自然就会有这个执着，有了执着，自然就会有这个烦恼那这样子以后呢，现在我们需要的是什么呢？我们要去了解一下这个世界是不是真实，像我们所想象的那样子真实的东西。
So now that we understand that our suffering is very much connected to our attachment, we need to look at why it is that we do form attachment to things. And we can understand that in actual fact, attachment comes from regarding objects as real, whether it be money or social status or reputation. These are things that we very much care about. Sometimes they bring us happiness and a sense of satisfaction. However, these feelings of happiness and satisfaction often pass very quickly, and after they have passed, they leave us with a great deal of negativity. However, now that we know that this negativity, this suffering is connected to our attachment, and that this attachment is connected or derived from regarding these things or objects as real, we can recognize that the fundamental factor here in our attachment and suffering is our tendency to regard the world as real. That is that the world that we perceive, that we experience with our five sense faculties, we regard to be really very real. We very seldom question whether or not this world that we perceive through our senses exists or not, whether it's real or not. We take its reality as a given, and regarding it in such a way to be real, naturally we form an attachment to it. And forming an attachment to the world, naturally we experience suffering. So what we need to do from here on is examine whether the world is in fact as real as we have tended to think it to be.
比如说我们相信一个人的时候，特别相信的时候，因为我们从来都不怀疑他的所作所为，实际上他的一些言行举止当中呢，有一些是可以怀疑的，可以的完全是可以怀疑的，但是呢，就是有一些不正常的事情，但是因为我们太相信这个人，根本就没有在乎他的这个可以的行为所以我们一直都这么相信。同样的，这个世界我们非常非常的相信，从来都没有怀疑。他的表现当中呢，有一些东西是可以的，值得怀疑的但是我们忽略了，根本就没有往这个方面去想，因为我们太相信这个世界。
So it's just like someone that we really believe in, someone that we trust very much. We don't question the things that they say or the things that they do at all, even though there may in fact be areas of their speech and conduct that warrant our doubt. Maybe there are aspects of what they say and what they do that are abnormal. However, because on account of the fact that we believe in this person so much, we don't question them. We continue to trust them. And it's the same with the world around us. Even though there are aspects of its appearances that are worthy of our doubt, that warrant our doubt, we have never questioned these things or thought about them because we believe so strongly in the reality of the world.
就像我们特别相信一个人的时候，然后呢，另外一个特别了解这个人就站出来说，告诉我们你的这个朋友他是一个坏人突然间告诉我们他是一个坏人，那这个时候呢，我们可能就是因为很意外，我们可能不太容易接受这个观点但是呢，从此以后呢，我们也有一个另外的一个想法，至少去观察一下他是不是这个另外这个人所说的一样同样的，我们非常的相信这个世界， 我们实际上我们不是相信这个世界，是相信我们的感官，然后特别的相信。那么这个时候呢，般若心经告诉我们你相信的这个你特别相信的这个感官，实际上就是一个骗子这个时候呢，我们就会一开始的时候对我们的触动特别的大，我们一定会觉得怎么可能，不可能不可能，它就是这么的真实的一个世界，怎么可能呢？我的感官怎么可能是骗子呢？一开始我们不接受，但是不接受、拒绝不接受，这些全部完了以后呢，这个后面我们还是静下来以后呢，我这个冲动、激动这些全部过了以后呢，然后我也会去思考一下，这个会不会这个另外这个心经里面讲的一样，这个会不会是一个我的感官会不会是一个骗子然后他给我提供的这个信息会不会是一个错误的信息这个时候呢，我们更加的刻意的东西呢是什么？就这个时候我们立即就联想到另外一个问题比如说我晚上睡觉的时候做梦梦里面的这个世界也不就是现在的一模一样这么真实吗那么我把它当作真实的时候，它就是在我的眼里，至少在做梦的时候不就跟现实生活一模一样吗？但是醒来的时候呢，全部都不在，都是假的那么这个世界现实生活会不会也有一天会是这样子那这时候呢，我们就是开始怀疑这个世界的真和假。
So, just as if we really believe, we really trust a particular person, and someone else comes out and says and tells us that this friend of ours that we believe in so much is a bad person. To begin with, we would find this extremely difficult to accept. We wouldn't really like this. However, after a period of time, we might find ourselves wondering whether it is in fact the case that the person that we have believed in might be just like what the other person said. And it's the same with the world around us that we believe in, or rather, not so much the world, but our five senses, our belief in our five senses. We might find ourselves coming to wonder after the Heart Sutra tells us that in actual fact our five senses are a cheat, that they are swindling us, deceiving us. To begin with, we might find this very difficult to accept. We might regard it as impossible. However, after the initial shock and after our initial refusal to accept this, we might find ourselves actually starting to wonder whether it is possible, just like the Heart Sutra said, that our five senses are deceptive, and whether it is that the information or the data that they provide us with are mistaken. And in thinking like this, very quickly we might come on to another question, that is our dream world, whether the world that we experience in our dream is the same as the world that we experience in our everyday lives. So if we wake up from a dream, then our dream world no longer exists. Is it possible that one day we might wake up from this world that we experience in our everyday lives? So in questioning like this, we begin to doubt real and false concepts of what is real and false in the world.
这样子以后呢，我们的感官就给我们的意识 提供了一个错误的信息，然后呢，我们的意识就是根据这个感官给他提供的这个错误的信息，然后就是做出了一个错误的判断然后就这两个就是一个恶性循环感官给他提供一个错误的讯息，然后呢，意识又做了错误的判断，然后就这两个错误的信息和错误的判断当中，然后我们迷住了。那么这个现在知道了这些都是错误以后呢，然后我们可以把我们的智慧从这个迷当中解放出来，这叫做超越就是佛教里面就叫做超越生死轮回。实际上需要超越的就是这个物质，我们的物质愚昧就从这个物质和愚昧当中要把我们的心解放出来。现在是什么状态？现在是我们的内心被这个无明物质，用佛教的话来讲叫做无明无明就是物质愚昧那么我们的心就是被这个愚昧物质保住了现在保住了，现在我们就是束缚在这个轮回当中，没有自由。比如说我们不想生气的时候呢，也要生气我们不想难受的时候特别难受然后我们希望拥有一个稍微愉快一点的心情的时候呢，总是得不到这样子的愉快的心情那么这些都是说明我们现在就是在某一个地方就有问题，我们不自在我们的肉体要改变，这个就是不是很容易当然现在的这个整容的手术就可以改变一些我们的面部的一些但是呢我们的身体整个是没办法，这个已经形成了以后呢是没有办法改变。那我们的心态应该是可以改变的，但是呢我们连我们的心态改变都很难。他生气的时候我们不希望生气也没有办法他很贪婪的时候呢，然后我们本来是我们不希望贪婪，但是他就是非要贪婪然后嫉妒然后就是等等这些仇恨抱怨这样子的这个烦恼让我们特别的不开心所以我们不希望有这些，但是没有办法我们控制不了。那么这个就是我们现在没有获得这个内在的自由，所以我们的心还没有这些当中解放出来所以现在我们的这个需要做的，我们平时讲的这个我们的智慧的提升，就是从这个无明从物质当中解放出来这叫做超越。
So in actual fact, the process starts out with our 5 senses providing our minds with mistaken data or mistaken perceptions, and then our mind, based on this mistaken data or mistaken perceptions, makes mistaken judgments, and this forms a vicious cycle. First our mistaken perceptions, and then second the mistaken judgments that we make on the basis of these perceptions. As a result of the operation of these two, we become very confused. However, knowing or understanding the nature of firstly our mistaken perceptions and then our mistaken judgments, it is possible for us to liberate ourselves from this confusion. And in so doing, this is what we refer to as transcending cyclic existence. In fact, what it is that we are to transcend is in fact our ignorance. That is what it is that we need to go beyond or surpass. In liberating our minds in this way, at the moment, however, our minds are obscured by ignorance, and therefore we are subjugated by cyclic existence. We have no freedom whatsoever. So even though we don't wish to manifest anger, we still manifest anger. Even though we don't want to feel suffering, we still feel suffering. Even though we wish to experience happiness, we can't attain this happiness. So all of these things show very clearly that somewhere we have a problem. And in terms of our physical bodies, these are not something that it is particularly easy for us to transform. Of course, cosmetic surgery and various procedures exist today that can transform the body to a certain extent. However, our mental states, our minds by comparison, are something that we can change. However, this is already something very difficult for us. Again, our anger, we don't want to experience it, but we always do. Same with greed and jealousy, vindictiveness, and other afflictions. All of these make us feel very unhappy, and yet we can't control them. And the reason that we can't is because we haven't yet attained inner freedom. Our minds have not yet been liberated. So, what we therefore seek to do is to increase our wisdom and liberate ourselves from ignorance and transcend the sufferings of cyclic existence.
因为时间的关系，我们的课今天就讲到这里。但是这个内容还没有讲完，我们明天继续要讲这个我们刚才只是讲了一下这个世界就是心经里面讲性的色即是空，但是怎么是空这个理由原因这些都没有讲完，所以我们今天听了这个课的人，如果明天没有什么特殊情况的话，希望大家来听，因为如果明天的课我们继续不听的话，这个就是因为这个内容不全，所以不会有什么帮助，所以我们明天最好继续听。那么明天我们把这个剩下的道理和一些修行的方法就只有明天讲。
So tonight, due to time constraints, we are going to finish now and continue with this tomorrow. We haven't yet explained how it is that form is emptiness and emptiness is form. So everyone who has attended the teaching tonight, it would be great if you could come tomorrow night as well, because what we have explained so far is incomplete, and therefore it's not something that you'll be able to gain benefit from. So in tomorrow night's teaching, we'll continue to talk about the theory as well as introduce some practice methods as well.
好，我们最后大家来做回向回向就是说我们把今天的听经闻法的功德会分享给天下所有的众生，然后我们诚心实意的希望以我们的这个功德能让天下所有的众生幸福快乐，很快就能够超越生死轮回这样子大家以这样子的心愿来回向。
So we are going to end our teaching now with a dedication of merit, and we do so with the wish that the merit that we are sharing with all living beings that we have accumulated through listening to tonight's teaching may benefit them and bring them happiness and very quickly enable them to transcend the suffering of cyclic existence.
说那么的一谈这人八年多年你别站南半水一个那街瓦龙正白这边做连着啊周日修我们阿红本整个人把马色的红我们阿红本整个人把马色的红我们阿红本整个人把马色的红谢谢大家，阿弥陀佛。